Jaguars at the Chiefs. And after upsetting the Chargers, I think the first reaction was, oh, Jaguars-Chiefs, this one's not going to be very good. The odds makers have it at 8.5. But the Jaguars, as has been said this week by Coach Doug Pederson, are playing on house money. They're at a level where no one expected them to get. They can be very loose. They can be free. The Chiefs are the ones more likely to be tight. And one guy who isn't tight on Saturdays, and I got some things to say about this. After we hear from Trevor Lawrence and Doug Pederson about the fact, Peter, if you haven't heard, Trevor Lawrence is 37-0 in his entire life when playing on Saturday. Here's coach and quarterback talking about that statistical achievement yesterday.
Take a lot of pride in it because we play on a Saturday again, so maybe, that would be, so, I mean, just it is what it is. I don't really think about that. I think about we got to win this game to keep going, to keep playing, to keep our season alive. So that's what I think about. So trying to go 38-0 if you want to put it that way. But, about that streak or whatever, just honestly kind of a coincidence that, I've had Saturday games on all three levels. But, I mean, yeah, let's keep that going. That means we're playing again next week. So that's the plan.
Are you aware that Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game on a Saturday?
This guy.
37-0. High school, college, and pros.
He's not the first one to say it.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, a lot. Next question.
Good. I'm glad he reacted the way he did. When I first saw that stat, I love a good, and I know you do too, a highly specific, curious, intriguing, fascinating stat. Day of the week on which game is played, especially Saturday. I mean, he's played 2 games at the NFL level on Saturday, and they've been in the last 2 weeks. Who cares? Day of week. Who cares when he played in high school or college? Who cares? I mean, of all the things we could care about, this whole 37-0, I saw that last week, and I was just like, oh, God, social media doing it again. Who gives a rat's ass, as my mom used to say, about that stat?
I would really like to know, what is Trevor Lawrence's record on days that he eats a Texas bacon cheese steak with hash browns and cheese and a pecan waffle at Waffle House? What's his record on those days? That's as valid as that other one.
Yeah, and it's amazing it's become a thing. And I guarantee you, if they win on Saturday and he becomes 38-0, then we won't hear the end of it. Although it will be the end of it until
it won't be appearing in Football Morning in America,
23.
is all I can say.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you this. There won't be a Saturday game for the Jaguars until week 15 at the earliest in 2023 because they don't play Saturday games very often in the NFL, and the Saturday games officially end this Saturday. Will the season officially end for the Jaguars this Saturday? Peter, what fascinates me far more than Trevor Lawrence's record on Saturdays, the whole Doug Pederson, Andy Reid getting together again. Doug Pederson, a former Reid lieutenant who went to Philadelphia and did the thing that Reid failed to do in all those years there as head coach, get to the Super Bowl and win it. 2 of the 8 coaches this weekend trying to become, eventually, the first guy to ever win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. 25% of the field, Doug Pederson and Mike McCarthy of the Cowboys. They each have done it with other teams. No one's ever done it. There's been a guy who got back, Bill Parcells. Nobody's ever won it with a second team. Pederson amazes me. And I was looking before the show at how many teams did and didn't interview Doug Pederson last year. There's some teams probably kicking themselves, starting in Denver, for not taking a closer look at Doug Pederson when he was available to anyone last year.
Here's the thing about Doug Pederson that I like, that I've always liked. Mike, I go back to 9 days before the Super Bowl, before the Philadelphia New England Super Bowl, when I rode to work, when I was going to write my column that week about a ride to work with Doug Pederson as he tries to go in and slay the dragon, who is Bill Belichick or Tom Brady. And so I met him, and he had to stop at a Wawa in New Jersey. For those who know what a Wawa is, it's a gas station / convenience store / coffee hub for all the 5:30 a.m. risers. So Doug Pederson's got to get gas. And he gets his gas, and he goes into the thing, pays for his gas and everything, and not a single soul recognizes him. And I was shocked. Philadelphia, South Jersey not recognizing him, shrugged his shoulders, and it was like, who cares? You know, and I saw that exact same thing, the exact same look, the exact same attitude when he did his halftime interview with Kaylee Hartung on NBC. And Kaylee Hartung basically says, hey, Doug, the sky is falling. What are you going to, and she doesn't say this, but in essence, Doug, the sky is falling. What are you going to do? And he goes, we're just going to keep chipping away. We'll be all right. I don't have to say anything to Trevor Lawrence. He'll be fine. He's been through it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm exaggerating. That isn't exactly what he said, but his whole attitude was, hey, I'm not worried. We're going to be okay. And he was okay. And I think that is the strength of a coach like Doug Pederson. That is what he took from Andy Reid. That is what Andy Reid would do. That's exactly the way Andy Reid would handle a half like that and go in. He doesn't have to go talk to Patrick Mahomes and say, gee, Patrick, are you okay? Are you going to throw up at halftime? No. I mean, he understands who he has, who his quarterback is, and Doug Pederson believes that he has trained his players. He has grounded his players. His players understand what is at stake. He doesn't have to harangue them in their biggest game of the year. They know. And they came out in the second half and did exactly what he told them. Chip away, and hey, offense, you got to score on every possession. And they did. And I'm not saying that that's Doug Pederson inspiring his guys or anything like that, but he understands. He's been a player. He's been down that road. He played behind Brett Favre for a number of years, and he saw how the great ones prepare and how losses and deficits, they just wash right over him. You just move on. Nothing can be gained by crapping your pants at halftime of a big game.
Well, in more ways than one, that's for sure. And also, by the way, it doesn't make the cut for Vocabulary Morning in America, but harangue, one of my favorite words. But not, if it's only 2 syllables, it really can't be this week's submission by Peter King for a word that will elucidate and illuminate for many out there. I agree with you about Pederson, and I'm looking at the list of the teams that did and didn't interview him in the last cycle. The Saints, Vikings, Bears, and Jaguars did. So at least they kicked tires on him. The Texans, Raiders, Broncos, Giants, and Dolphins did not look his way at all. And the Broncos really stand out there because maybe the Pederson attitude is exactly what Russell Wilson would have benefited from in 2022. Who knows? But, and this gets to something I was talking about yesterday, Peter. There are plenty of former head coaches out there who have done pretty well. And I wrote about this yesterday at PFT, and I listed all the names. I tried to be as expansive as I could. Bill O'Brien, Jason Garrett, Marvin Lewis, Mike Zimmer. Guys who have done it and done it well that aren't even getting interviews. Instead, you've got the owners, lather, rinse, repeat, influenced by idiots like us in the media who are trying to peg the rising stars, even though we have no reason to believe that Ben Johnson is ever going to know how to put his shoes on as a head coach in the NFL, much less command a room of grown-ass men, when there are guys out there who have done it and done it well. And kudos to the Jaguars for recognizing that Doug Pederson, by virtue of the fact that he won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, has proven he can do it pretty well.
The one thing about that I really appreciated, and look, I have given Trent Baalke a bunch of guff over the years for some personnel things that he's done and all that. But first of all, Trent Baalke has done one hell of a job in Jacksonville, not only in drafting, but in free agency this year, and in being the one guy who said, you know what? I'll stick my chest out. I'll go with Doug Pederson. Mike, for those who don't really understand and who are not around it maybe as much as you and I are, and and especially over the years, I have been to 50 games in Philadelphia. I have been to their facility 50 times. And I have slept overnight and woke up to WIP in Philadelphia and listened to what they're saying on the radio and read the columnists and everything. That is a tough city. That's a tougher city than New York, in my opinion, for a coach to win, to ignore everything, and to basically get his team ready to play. What did Doug Pederson do in 2017? He not only got his team ready to play, but they were innovative game after game after game. You know, Jeffrey Lurie was an early buyer into analytics, as was Howie Roseman. And I think they, along with Doug Pederson, basically all believed, let's be a little gutsy on fourth down. Let's put in some plays, that like Philly special, that nobody is expecting. And the combination of innovation and steely steadiness by Doug Pederson in 2017 really helped the Philadelphia Eagles win a Super Bowl. After that, all hell broke loose. I get it. There's going to be 18 books written about it, and I understand. But in my opinion, hats off to Trent Baalke, Shad Khan, for picking Doug Pederson to not only, take a very young team, and try to make this young team good. Heck, they're 8-2 in the last 10 games, but also to tell a young quarterback, hey, listen, Trevor, this is not every year of your career is not going to be like the Urban Meyer year. We're going to show you exactly how a good team is built and run in the National Football League. And you know what? You'll think you're back at Clemson, after a while, the way everything runs on time and very, very well. And that's what Doug Pederson has done.
One last point I want to make, and we need to take a break. And it's funny because when we started the show, it's like, boy, we got a half hour to talk about these two games. I've been talking about them all week, been thinking about them. How are we going to fill a half hour? And here we are 45 minutes in. The one thing, and Peter, I don't want to be influenced by the fact that I will be on the field at Arrowhead Stadium as part of the NBC pregame coverage. My default always is pick the home team in that setting if you know what's good for you, right? Kind of like the dynamic that the referees must be experiencing when it's time to make a big call. I would like to get out of here alive. Thank you very much. I'll just go with the home team. This dynamic of the one seed with the week off and the team that no one expected to be there, that won a hard-fought game and feels good about themselves. They've got confidence coming into this game. No one expects anything from them. We've seen it time and again. We saw it last year with both number one seeds. What happens? You get caught flat-footed early, you find yourself in a game, and you see your season crumble before your eyes as the upstart team that nobody expected to be there makes like Rocky Balboa against Apollo Creed. The second time, not the first time, because obviously Rocky lost the first time.
Well, Mike, the way I look at this is, if you watch the second half of the Jacksonville and look, the Jacksonville Chargers game was ridiculous. I texted a good friend of mine at halftime of that game and said, this game absolutely is not over. What actually have the Chargers done other than take advantage of incredible field position? Really? And look, it's not that I thought the Jaguars were going to win, but, I didn't think it was over. But if you watch the second half of that game and you think the Jaguars don't have a chance to win this game, I think you're crazy. You're just crazy. Now, the one thing that Trevor Lawrence didn't face in the wild card game that he will face in the divisional game is Chris Jones. And, in my opinion, Chris Jones had as close to an Aaron Donald type season this year and gave me real pause toward the end of the season. Am I voting for Nick Bosa for Defensive Player of the Year, or am I voting Chris Jones? And I have to tell you, it was pretty close. I ended up voting for Bosa, but Chris Jones, I thought he was absolutely dominant, sort of like Dexter Lawrence against the Vikings last weekend. He was in the backfield 10 times every game. And I just think that is something that the Jaguars will have to deal with this week that they did not have to deal with last week.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.